All right, if you're gearing up for your ACCA law exam, you know that corporate failure is a really big deal. When a company gets into serious financial trouble, it has a massive choice to make. So today, we're diving into the two main paths a business can go down when the cash runs out.
So let's imagine it. A company is out of money. It just can't pay its suppliers, it can't pay the rent, it can't even pay its own staff. Is that it? Is it automatically game over? Well, not always. This is that exact moment where a company has to decide, do we try for a rescue or is it really time to shut the doors for good?
Now, before we can even talk about the options, we have to know what the official starting line is. What's the legal trigger that kicks this whole process off in the first place?
And that trigger has a name: corporate insolvency. The legal definition here is super specific and really important. It's not just about having more debt than assets on paper. The real test is being unable to pay its debts as they fall due. That's the red line. Once a company crosses it, a whole set of legal procedures can be put into motion.
Okay, so the company is now officially insolvent. It's standing at this huge fork in the road. One path, that one leads to survival, a chance to rebuild and keep going. The other path leads to an orderly shutdown. Let's head down that rescue route first.
So this rescue mission is called administration. The best way to think about it is like putting the company into a hospital's emergency room. The whole goal is to stabilize the patient and see if it can be saved.
The most important part of administration is that it gives the company breathing space. It's like putting up a protective shield. Right away, it stops creditors from suing the company or trying to take its assets. The main objective here is to rescue the company as a going concern, meaning to get it healthy enough to trade again, keep people employed, and just operate.
So how does this actually play out? Well, it's a pretty clear three-step process. First, something called a moratorium kicks in. That's the legal freeze on anybody trying to get their money back. Second, an independent pro called an administrator comes in and takes control from the directors. And third, that administrator puts together a rescue plan and shows it to the creditors to see if they'll agree. It's a very structured, expert-led attempt to turn things around.
That's the best-case scenario, right? But what if it's too late? What if the company's problems just run too deep? The patient, so to speak, just can't be saved. What happens then?
Well, that brings us to the second path: liquidation. I mean, the name pretty much says it all. It's all about turning the company's assets into liquid cash.
Yeah, if administration is the emergency room, liquidation is basically organizing the funeral. The goal here is absolutely not about revival, it's about closure. It's an orderly process to sell off everything the company owns, pay off as many debts as possible, and then officially, legally, end the company's existence.
But hold on, even in this final chapter, the story can go one of two ways. The company can either choose to end things on its own terms, or it can be forced into it.
And the difference is all about who kicks it off and why. With a voluntary liquidation, it's the company's own shareholders who make the call. They can see the writing on the wall and just decide, okay, it's time to wind things up. But with a compulsory liquidation, it's usually an angry creditor who's run out of patience. They go to court and get a judge to force the company into liquidation. So one is a choice, the other is a command.
Right, so the company is being liquidated. All its assets are being sold. That creates one big pot of cash. The massive question now is, who actually gets that money?
And the answer is definitely not. Everyone gets an equal slice of the pie. Not even close. The law is incredibly clear on this. It sets up a strict queue, or what we call a pecking order, that determines exactly who gets paid first, who's next in line, and who might end up with absolutely nothing.
So at the very top of the list, number one, you've got creditors with a fixed charge. Think of a bank that has a mortgage on the company's office building. They have security over that specific asset, so they get the first claim on the money from its sale. Next up, at number two, are preferential creditors, and this includes employees who are owed wages. The law gives them a special spot in the queue for obvious reasons, to protect them. Then you get creditors with a floating charge, whose security is over a whole class of assets that changes, like the company's stock. Way down at number four are the unsecured creditors. These are your everyday suppliers who just sent an invoice and have no special security. And dead last, the shareholders. The owners of the company only get a single penny if every single person above them in this list has been paid back in full. And, as you can probably guess, that almost never happens.
Okay, so let's boil this all down. What are the key things you absolutely need to remember? First, administration is the rescue mission, and it comes with that protective shield called a moratorium. Second, liquidation is the end of the line, and it can happen either by choice or by a court order. And third, when it's time to pay up, that creditor pecking order is a strict legal cue that you cannot mess with. Get those 3 points down and you're in great shape.
And that leaves us with one final thought. The law, particularly with administration, really pushes for a rescue culture. But is that always the best thing? Does it sometimes prop up businesses that really should be allowed to fail so that the resources and people can move on to new, more successful companies? It's a really complex question. There's no easy answer, but it's definitely something to think about, even after the exam is over.